Hey y'all, welcome to the Honesty Circle, the safe space to discuss growing in adulthood, mental health, faith, and all the things in between. It's your host, Sierra Elise, and I hope you're taking care of not only your mental and spiritual, but your emotional and physical health so you can be your best self this week. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Honesty Circle. It's me, your host, Sierra Elise. How are y'all doing? Are you doing well? I hope you are doing well because God loves you and I love you and I want you to be happy. So, today's episode, we are going to be talking about accountability. We're going to be talking about what accountability is, why it's important, how you can use it to strengthen your relationship with yourself, but also strengthen your relationship with others. Okay. So let's dive deep. Okay. And I am pretty note heavy today. So if you see me looking down, if you're watching this, I typically look at the camera, but I got a lot of notes. So I'm going to try to make sure I get all of it covered. So when you think about what is accountability, we want a definition, right? Love a good definition. So it's the willingness to accept responsibility for one's actions and decisions, but also consequences. And one thing I also like to kind of add to this definition when I was kind of doing some like thinking and research, I like when he talks about taking ownership, the willingness to take ownership for one's actions, decisions, and consequences. Because I think that's one thing with accountability where it's you are fully owning what it is was done, said, good, bad, the ugly, all of it. All of it. Okay. So when you look at accountability, like thinking about what it is, sometimes it's good to kind of see the opposite, or not just the opposite, but what it's not. Accountability is not blame. When you look at blame, blame is falsely like assigning a consequence or action on someone that obviously didn't do it, right? So it's false, it's not correct. And when you think about blame, you think you can just blame other people, but you can blame yourself. Because because blame, it's not just fault, but you're also criticizing yourself. It's shaming, it's pointing the finger. So it's like you. And in the same way, it could be like me. Because we know we all talk bad about ourselves sometimes, right? If you're going to be honest with yourself, you've had a moment of negative self-talk. Now you're probably going to get better at it, but there's probably been some time in your life in which you've had something negative to say about yourself. So that's a part of the blame, right? Because you don't have to go negative. You can take accountability without it being blame. Okay. I think that's an important part when you think about this, especially when it comes to relationship with yourself, because it could look like blaming yourself, but it's really just taking accountability. So when I think about accountability, I love good examples. So I want to share some examples in my own personal life and how we can take accountability for self specifically. We're going to start with self. So when you think about taking accountability for yourself, right? I have had a mountain. And when I mean mountain, I mean pull something, it's going to all come down of clothes in my bedroom. Okay. And this past weekend, I finally looked at that and looked at myself and said, Sierra, you have got to do something about this. I took responsibility. Like, you let it pile up for weeks. You have ignored it for weeks. You keep pulling through it to get clothes in the morning and you're tired of it. You don't like it. So do something about it. And so I had to be accountable for my own actions. Like, you know what? I got it to that point, but I wasn't blaming myself. I wasn't saying, or criticizing. I wasn't saying, Sierra, you're just a nasty, dirty person who cannot clean up after herself, who cannot freaking fold her clothes and da 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 da. Like, I wasn't negative on myself. I was just saying, like, no, Sierra, like, this is wrong. You can't keep letting this happen. You need to do something to change. And I think another part of accountability is it's the change of actions oftentimes. So when you think about it, it's not just I taking ownership, but it's also then moving forward. And I think that's a big part of accountability that people miss out on, where it's like, I'm saying it's me or I'm saying it's you, but then it's now what? Now what? What are we going to do now that accountability's been taken? Now that I'm saying it was me, I took the fault, whatever it was, good, bad, whatever. I'm taking on that responsibility. Then what? And so that's kind of what we're going to continue to go through in this episode. And so I want to go to and talking about how um accountability is not just for the bad, but it's also for the good too. So think about being accountable for the good things. Like if your supervisor or boss were to say, um, whose idea was this or to do XYZ, and it's a good idea and they like it, then you're like, okay, yep, it was me. I take ownership. I'm the one who did that. And sometimes it's hard when it's good because you don't want to feel like you're bragging or like putting unnecessary spotlight on yourself. But it is in fact important to still give yourself credit for the good and taking ownership of the good that you also do. Because if you only take accountability for what's bad, you might see yourself in a bad light because you're like, oh, I keep doing all of this bad things or all the negative things. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about kind of being accountable with yourself. So speaking of self, we want to go deeper in how accountability can be used as a tool to strengthen your relationship with yourself. Okay. So think about this. We all say, oh, I have a goal to accomplish XYZ. We all say that we want to, maybe get back working out or eat healthier or do whatever you say. But when it comes to those things, like think about like an accountability partner in anything, right? They cannot make you do anything. They can try to hold you accountable and tell you, hey, you should probably do this, you should probably do that. And we'll talk about accountability with others in a second. But it comes from you. You have to be the one to decide, I am going to do whatever it is I have said I'm going to do. You need to be take ownership, take pride in the goal, in what you're saying, take pride in your word, right? Like don't just leave it as a goal and don't make any efforts towards it. Because when you're working towards those personal goals in your life, whatever you say you're going to do, any kind of incentives or anything along those lines, you are going to start realizing that like as you are working and going further and further, you don't accomplish your goals without holding yourself accountable, without doing things that you sometimes don't want to do, pulling yourself out and be like, hey girl, looking yourself in the mirror and be like, we got to get it together. Okay. You're doing a great job in this, but this we gotta fix over here. And so it allows you to just be honest with yourself. And when you're honest with yourself, honesty you're building trust with yourself in this time too, because when you're setting the goals and you're working towards it, you are actually doing what you said you were going to do to yourself. Now you can trust yourself a little bit more. We talked about that in other episodes, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand with a level of trust too. But you have to encourage yourself to fully take on and be proactive in different behaviors to improve your outcomes, right? It's kind of like I said, going towards your goals. It takes some level of intentionality. It takes accountability on your own part to get to where you say you want to be. And that's how you continue to love and build on yourself a little bit more. Yeah. And I think another thing too is when you're talking about going for your goals and the positive, reaching for those goals, there's always probably going to be a negative too. There's probably going to be a time where you make a step and you fall back, right? And in that same time, you still have to think, okay, how did I fall short? Where did I mess up? How can I get better in this certain area? It's a learning tool too. So when you're working and it's like you look back, it's like, I can look back and see and analyze what it is I did wrong, take ownership for the good, take ownership for the bad, the ugly, all of it. And I'm going to now use those as learning tools to continue to launch myself forward. So that's what it's really good for yourself, because think about if you take accountability for yourself. If you're more intentional in taking accountability for yourself, your actions, this is how you continue to grow and evolve as a person. And I think adulthood requires you to be accountable, right? Like you no longer can fall back on your parents. You no longer can just divulge of I didn't mean divulge, but you can't just like divert. That's what I meant. You can't just divert to somebody else. And you can, but also that harms other people. When you are pushing on something onto someone else, now you're blaming. That's number one, which we said we're not going to want to do in the beginning. So now you're blaming, but then also you have to think too, now that you're blaming, people are going to start viewing you in a different way when they find out the truth. Because when I tell you, the truth always going to come out no matter what. If you blame someone for something that they did not do, it is going to come out. And if you think it's not going to, but it is. And you want to be a trustworthy person. You want to be a reliable person. And so you really need to be so intentional in how you are holding yourself accountable to just continue to launch yourself forward in every area of your life, right? Use that as a strategy. Because the thing too is like, how are you going to keep track of your accountability? I think one thing that I do to keep kind of track, I would say, of like things I've held myself accountable for, of like the negative, the good, the bad, is journaling. I talked about this before too, where I've done like audio journaling, where I just get my voice memo and I just set it up and I'm just rambling. You know, I have a podcast, so it's easy for me to talk. So I'm just talking out all my thoughts. And as I'm talking through it, as I'm kind of unpacking fully what went wrong, how I went astray, or all these different things, right? It makes my brain think of like, okay, now I can think of more strategies. And so that's where the strategic part comes in too, where it's like, in the analyzing part. And there's different ways to analyze. So like I said, you can do journaling. You can also kind of set days or times where you're kind of looking back at the past week, the past month, whatever it is, and looking at your overall success in different areas that you are kind of trying to grow in. So that's just kind of ways that you can think through how you're going to hold yourself accountable, because this year we are not blaming ourselves for anything. We are not blaming others for anything. We take accountability for ourselves. And then moving on to talking about accountability with other people, the big part about this though is you can't hold people accountable most times if you don't have a relationship with them. Let's keep that in mind, right? Now, think about this. If someone random were to come up to you and point out your flaws and say something like, this is awful, like you don't need to be doing that. You need to be like coming at you, right? Like, and it could be in a really nice way. Like couldn't be wrong. They couldn't be blaming you, but it's hard to receive that accountability from someone that you don't already have some form of relationship with. Because I think taking accountability with yourself is difficult to do, but it's also hard to fully receive that from someone else because it feels like they're calling you out, right? When it's like, that's not the actions or the decisions or the outcomes that you said you wanted, and now you're acting in a different way than what you said. So, but that's hard to hear sometimes, and just depending on where you are in your life, it's hard to hear. No matter when, it's hard to hear accountability, even if it's truth. It's hard to hear, and so please don't go out trying to hold everybody accountable if you don't really know them. So that's number one, okay? So, but number two is the same way it kind of strengthens your relationship with yourself. It does strengthen your relationship with people close to you. So I'm gonna use an example. Leah, y'all know I talked about her before. She's been on the pod, bestie. She is someone, when I tell you that girl holds me accountable, I could say like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. And then she'll bring it up like later and like, oh, so how is that going? And not even in a way where it's like she's, pointing the finger or whatever. She does it in such a subtle way. And it gets me to think like, you're right. I haven't been doing that. I said I was going to. So now I need to get on it. So there's ways to hold others accountable and that it can be received well, which is why relationship matters, because when you have that relationship with them, how to take it. Y'all know I'm sensitive. I am sensitive. So you can't come at me talking about some, Sierra, you need to be da 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 da. That's not going to work for me. I'm going to cry. So you cannot do that for me. So knowing the person and knowing how to approach them and kind of have that conversation is a really, really big part in holding someone else accountable. But also you have to think too, because I know that she can hold me accountable. One, that shows that she's listening to me. One, that means that she's remembering me. And it also shows that she cares about me. So when those kind of start to come together, I can now trust her with other things in other areas because I know that she's listening. I know that she cares. And I know that she wants what's best for me. And so like I said, when it's hard to hear at times, a lot of times it's coming from a good place. And so that's what, when you talk about receiving the being accountable, but when you're giving it out to someone else, like I said, you have to know how to approach it, because people can take different levels of tone, and kind of word choice as well. And so it is a really great way, to communicate, but then also you don't want to get in the slippery slope of blame. So think about in a relationship, right? Think about, someone yelled, or someone, did something that the other person didn't like. And I'm good for this. I'm not gonna lie. Let me run it back. I am really bad at this. I'm really, really bad at then blaming the other person for why I did what I said, what I did, right? I'm always the person that's like, okay, I'm getting better. So don't hear me in like, oh my gosh, she's an awful person. I am working on it. Okay. But this is how I used to be. I was that person that was like, it was very defensive. It was very defensive. I was very defensive. So someone would tell me like, oh, Sierra, you need a blah, 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 or I don't like that you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I did that because you did this. And then it added up to that. And then that's what made me do that. And so I feel like sometimes I have to over explain myself when someone's just kind of looking back at me and throwing it back at me. It's like, girl, no, be accountable for your actions. And so I think I'm trying to get better in that too. So that's why I'm having this episode, because like I said, I never bring up something on the mic that I even am not working through myself. So being accountable, holding myself accountable, learning how to hold other people accountable, it's something that I'm actively doing. And I think, it's a muscle. You have to practice it. You have to practice how to hold yourself accountable in a loving, caring way. You have to practice how to hold other people accountable in a loving, caring way, right? So it's not just like a boom, you have the skill. It has to be worked out and worked through. And so, but why is all of this important? Why is accountability important overall? There's just so many long-term benefits of it. Because think about, as you look back and hold yourself accountable, and like I said, accountability is not just seeing the wrong or seeing the good, but it's like, okay, then now what? It's the actions after accountability that a lot of times launch you forward in your relationship, in your personal life, in your work life, in almost every area. So that's the long-term benefits right there, because it continues to launch you forward. It continues to level up the bar, right? Like, I think with accountability too, it's like you fell short a little bit, or you're exceeding a little bit. So now let's push the bar higher. So when it's the good, it's going higher. But when it's bad, it's like you're not reaching the bar that you have set for yourself. So there's so many long-term benefits that come with that. But then the biggest thing too is when you have that strong relationship with yourself, you are developing those stronger relationships with the people in your life. That's how you just continue to grow in adulthood, right? Like when we talk about making friends, we talk about all these things. A big part is growing together. It's learning together. And so it's just a way to really look inward at yourself, and make sure that you are going to be the person that you said you wanted to be, the person that others that you said you're going to be to other people. So I hope this all makes sense. I hope that you are understanding what I'm saying and why accountability is important, because you want to build that trust with yourself. You want to build that trust with other people to launch you forward into your next chapter in life, into the next, level, into the next step, to the 2 steps higher, whatever it is. This is going to be the launching pad between you and going a little bit higher. So think about this. Think about the goals that you set for yourself, and think about, are you holding yourself accountable for all those goals? Are you working towards it? Are you falling short? See where you are going, and make some critiques. Like I said, it's now the now what after accountability. So as you're listening to this episode, think about your now what. What is your now what that you are going to do to then make it be as powerful as accountability can be? Okay. So let's move into the C's 2 cents. Y'all know that's my favorite part. So C's 2 cents this week is to look at yourself, look inward, see the areas in which you're doing amazing in. Affirm those. See the areas that you might be falling a little short in. Work to affirm those. Like, don't just see it as a negative and like, oh, I'm just awful, right? It's let's be strategic, and how can I improve? How can I improve? How can I go better? How can I not stay in this exact same place that I say I do not want to be in? So let these be launching pads forward. So I want you to do the thinking of the now what. You're holding yourself accountable, but now what? What are we going to do next now that we've been held accountable? What actions are we going to take now that we are holding ourselves accountable? Okay? Y'all can take my advice or not. That is just my 2 cents. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. If you like anything that you heard, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because we are on the goal to 300, y'all. We are so close. We were almost at 200. We'll be at 300. And soon we'll be at 500, So just keep sharing, keep listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Honesty Circle with the underscore at the end to stay updated on Circle News. Thanks so much for listening, y'all, and go conquer your week. Bye, y'all.